together again to revisit parts of the text. Some things that I thought were really good, and I wrote these down. I noticed that most all of you were giving as much as you were getting, as much information as you were getting. Most of you were doing a really good job on that. You did that, you said, by listening to the book, to the story, so that you could make those pictures in your head, and then you were also listening to each other. That is still our purpose, our talking purpose for today, for this portion, is to continue to give as much as you get. We even talked about the phrase where when you were finished, you turned to your partner and said, "What do you think?" So you can use that if that's helpful for you. You noticed a lot. Our goal, our thinking goal, was to use what the characters said and did, so that you could figure out what was happening in the events that were happening as part of the plot, what the characters were like, and what the setting was like. I noticed that you really noticed a lot of information about the events and the characters. You noticed that things like they stole the locket, his mom had died, he was fighting. You noticed things about the character, that Samuel was, he stole things, so he's kind of a thief, but he was a fighter. You thought Reverend Hunt might be somebody who was going to punish him, and that Captain John Smith was going to make him a strong leader. Those are just some of the things you noticed. You noticed a little bit about the setting. You noticed it was on the streets, and I think somebody mentioned the orphanage. What I'd like for us to do first, before we go on in the story, is to go back and revisit a few of the parts that we saw before, and I want you to really be thinking about what the character lets you know about the setting. We're going to start with that first. Okay, so as you're listening, listen to those clues that the character gives you about the setting of the story. I'm not going to read the whole first part again. I'm just going to go back to certain parts so that we can revisit that before we go on. So I'm going to go back to the setting. I want you to listen to this part, and then we're going to talk about what you're thinking about the setting when we read this part. Okay? Back in the first chapter it said, and it told you it was in London, England in 1606. That's not, the character didn't say that it was part of that. So we know it's in London, in a place called England. 1606. How many years ago was that? Any idea? A bunch, huh? Let's see, 1600, 1700, 1800, 1900, that's right, that's over 400 years ago. Okay?
Yeah, 400.
Yeah. And I wasn't around 400 years ago. I'm not that old. Nobody I know was around 4 years ago, so we're having to use what the character says and does to help us. Let's see what he tells us about the setting. Are you ready? Okay. I walk along. This is in the part where he's going in. He's just stolen the locket. He says, I walk along the docks, past the dark hulks of ships bobbing slowly. My heart is still racing. I try to calm myself. I listen to sailors laughing and arguing, their card games stretching into the night. I even venture a whistle, nothing fancy, just my own tune. The shopkeeper will not find me, I promise myself. Another part, after he's walked through the docks, he says, I find my favorite hollow near the London Bridge. Spiked on a pole atop the bridge is a severed head of a traitor, a man who betrayed the crown of England and paid for it with his life. I turn my face away so I don't have to look at those dull, staring eyes. I curl up and go to sleep. Did you notice anything in there? Say it for your partner. Turn and talk to your partner about what you noticed there.
On a pole. Like a store by it was like a store by the dock, because it said there were docks and ships and people were laughing and playing cards on the ship. So it was probably like by the ships and docks walking around and running, trying to get away. And then he probably got under a bridge where the ship knocks him asleep. Yeah, like by the coast. He probably he took pictures probably he was a trader. Yeah, choked him to death on the road because he was stone. So they caught him. He was gonna get his blood. Like they were gonna kill him. Or he and he maybe the shopkeeper followed him. When he grabbed him, he saw his face. That's why
Tell me what your group was talking about, what you noticed and what you were thinking about the setting as he was talking and telling us what happened. Alexander, what did y'all come up with? Okay, so he did steal the locket in this part. This is going back to the beginning. Maybe I didn't make that very clear. This is going back to something we already read. We're going back to revisit it, okay? I'm sorry, that confused you, didn't it? Okay, my fault. I'll make sure it's clearer next time. Yes, sir?
When he curled up, he tried to blend in and act like a rock.
And do you remember, can you tell me a little bit more about where he curled up?
Like sailors and stuff.
Oh, there were sailors there? So what does that tell us about the setting?
That he
If you need some help, you can call somebody.
He was probably under a bridge or by a whole bunch of water. And plus sailors, they might have just put their ship there for the night. And it probably was dark, but it wasn't late. So they just figured they'd just sit there on their boat or whatever and play them a card game.
Okay, do you agree with that? Okay, so you're saying that he, with the sailors and the curling up, and I like what you said, he was gonna pretend like he was a rock. I wonder can you tell me a little bit more about why you think he would be curling up like a rock?
so he wouldn't find him.
That's what I was thinking when you said that. And it didn't say that in the book, but that's a great inference. Really good thinking there. Brianna, what were y'all thinking?
We were thinking that he had the cover,
The what?
we were saying the cover of the
Help her out, baby.
we said that he probably he was hiding from the shop owner and
Kind of going along with
to
what they said?
hide from him.
Yeah, kind of like a rock, like you said over here? Okay. Yes, I'm going to get these two because y'all just look like you're dying to talk. Elijah?
We thought of another reason, another way the shopkeeper could have found out where Samuel was, because when Samuel passed by the sailors, maybe they told the shopkeeper where he was.
I didn't think about that, but that's very true. That's very true. And Alexander?
We said that he would probably live on the coast because on the coast there are usually docks around for ships to settle. Also, we inferenced that he lived by the coast of by the coast of England, and that he lived under like bridges, but he was also looked the other way and curled up like a rock. He wanted to protect himself in the middle of the night so that nothing will happen if someone kicked him or hurt him or something. But he also didn't want to see the dead person who was hanging there because that would kill someone for stealing.
Yeah, so there was something else in that setting. There was this head. Ugh, that was kind of gross. What do y'all think about that? Do you agree with that?
Yes.
Okay. Amber, I gotta move on, but say that good thinking for your partner because it may come into the next part, okay? There's another couple of parts about the setting. I'm gonna reread this. This is going back to what we've already read before. And I want you to listen to what the character says and tell me what you're thinking about the setting here, okay? It is early on a December morning as we walk from the orphanage to the docks. This is when they're leaving the orphanage, going to the docks. He's there with Reverend Hunt, he and Richard. Fog hangs thick and cold. It makes the stone houses drip and the wattle and daub houses look soggy. Richard carries Reverend Hunt's satchel, heavy with books and Bible and some extra clothes. My shoes clomp on the cobblestones. We reach the harbor. The sky is gray with morning light, and the place is alive with commotion. Hawkers call out their wares, and I smell fresh baked bread. Sailors pull on ropes and pulleys, lifting barrels barrels to swing from each ship's yard arm so they can be loaded on board. Officers shout orders and sailors march up the gangways carrying loads on their shoulders. Reverend points out the 3 ships that will be ours. Their hulls and scaffolding are newly painted in rich blue, deep maroon, and pale yellow. He says the largest one is the Susan Constant. Next in size is the Godspeed, and the smallest of pinnace is the Discovery. They bob next to the docks, and I watch as crates of chickens are carried on board. What are you thinking? Turn to your partner.
Talking about the boats, like, and then they said that they were colored, so then they said the name, so it's probably like the boats. They got like something that creates on this. I think the people that was giving the orders were like the captains of the ship.
Smart because they come in the morning, then they'll probably go there like in the afternoon because they leave early in the morning and you get there around he probably 2 hours to work. So I think it's great to like go out that time and like find something there like that's
You can't finish your sentence. I don't want you stopping in the middle of your sentence. As I was listening, I noticed a lot of comments about the characters and the events. Did any of your groups talk, which is really good, did any of your groups talk about the setting, the kind of picture of where it was taking place? Did anybody talk about that? I know you guys did. Tell us what you guys talked about. Listen.
Like it's morning and the sun's just coming up. And the gas is on. And the rooster. Roosters and people saying, hurry up and on the trip.
Did you want to add anything to that? That's pretty much it. So what do y'all think about that?
yeah.
Okay. Call on one of these people that are raising their hand. See if they've got something else to add to that.
We thought there was like probably like around like 5 a.m. in the morning because it said there was a lot of commotion. And that time usually like around here, people are getting ready for work. So we inferenced that they'll probably be doing that over there. And the chicken, it said that there was a lot of commotion. So we thought the chickens were making noise because they wake up early to like make noises and stuff. And there was also a lot of commotion because the people like they were smart to pack food and stuff, and they were like getting ready so they could be there like around 12 o'clock. Cause if they leave in the morning, I mean, it's like a long time to get there, so they would probably get there earlier than what they would if they left like in the middle of the day, and they would have more energy. Like they would be able to wake themselves up, so then they would be like all ready and they wouldn't be sleeping.
Yeah, those are some. What do you call one of these other people? Trayvon.
Early that morning, they were probably, they said they were giving out commands, and then they would buy a whole bunch of water, so probably it was some sailors getting ready to sail, and they were loaded up. And them 3 names that you said, it was probably names of the boats. And
So you see 3 ships there too. Okay. Amber, did you want to add to that?
They all took every single thing.
Hey, that you know what would you say at that point? Great minds think alike, because great minds are thinking alike. Last one.
We was talking about how
Samuel.
sleep in he don't get to sleep in all them dirty places under a bridge. And he would, no one would hurt him, like, cause in the orphanage, there is more safe.
That's true, I didn't think about that, but he probably will like the orphanage better. I don't think he ever said that, but that's a good inference. Let me move on, because there was something else I wanted you to notice. This really goes to deep thinking. There is something about Samuel that I want you to notice. So, and I want you really listening to this. There are some things that he says throughout the story. This is going to take really good thinking. I'm going to read go back to revisit some things that he said in the part that we've already read, because I think there's a point that you will catch. Okay? This is going to help you to understand him better. This is when the shopkeeper and the son have captured him. Just a second. And he hits he's fighting and he hits the shopkeeper's son in the chin. He, the son, returns my blow. One swipe with his hand to the side of my head, just like my father used to do. And just like in the old days, I see black, feel my knees crumple, and I'm out before I hit the ground. There's that piece, then listen to this piece. He's talking about how he has to be a page and he doesn't know how he's going to learn. He said, I've never been teachable in my life, except my mom teaching me how to read. That I sat still for. But my father tried to teach me smithing, and when I ruined a piece of iron, out came his fist. I won't have some man talking about John Smith I hardly know trying to beat sense into me. Turn to your partner.
I think the greatest thing is that he's doing that because he said he'll have a heart attack. He loves to he's I'm
And I think it's that's a big difference. I don't know how to read, so he speaks,
Quinn, share what you guys were talking about.
We talked about that. He read that his dad always beat him because he always messed up and his mom never beat him.
Do y'all agree with that?
Yes.
Yeah. Amber had something that they were kind of talking about that too, along those same lines. Amber, fill in with that. Add to that.
I think that if I was in Richard's place, I would be scared if my dad, but he wouldn't know himself anyway, get taught by his father, but he only would probably would let his mom, because he had probably more love with her than his father.
Do y'all agree with that? That he loved his mom more than his dad, but he was afraid of his father? Okay. Gregory.
He didn't like to get hit. So if he messed up with John Smith, he thought he would get hit.
I wonder why he's thinking that John Smith would hit him. What do you think? Elijah.
I think that he thought he would get hit because his dad always used to hit him when he did something wrong, so he was going, I think he was going to be scared of John Smith because he didn't know him and he's a grown man. He didn't know if he would do the same thing that his father did to him.
What do y'all think about that?
Yeah.
Anna, what do you think about that, sweetie? Do you agree with Elijah? What did she say that you agreed with?
That maybe his father will beat him.
His father was beating him, wasn't he? Did you hear what she said about John Smith? Elijah, repeat what you said about John Smith, about what he thought about John Smith.
He thought that John Smith would probably hurt him because he was a grown man. He might do the same thing that his father did.
Okay, do you agree with that, Anna? Okay, do you understand what, I guess, okay, Elijah, go ahead and call him. Thank you, Anna. Call on somebody else, because I don't want to give you my thoughts, I want to get yours.
Okay.
Somebody that really hasn't gotten a chance to share much, maybe.
Amber?
Okay.
I think he would actually be, I guess he would be scared of John Smith because his father also used to hit him a lot. But probably he was also scared of messing up. Cause he probably didn't know how to Smith.
Alan? No, I want you to say it. You can say it.
It's part of it's Samuel. He thinks that John Smith is gonna hit him because he thinks he's gonna be just like his dad and hit him a lot.
Very good thinking. Y'all are doing some awesome thinking. Okay, wait. This is so amazing. Okay. Okay, one more chance to go, and then I'm gonna move on. Yes.
I think that his dad was always in him because he was drinking a lot.
Oh, wow. They were thinking the same thing over there. Did they, Sam? Yeah. You know what? Hey, guys, y'all did the same thing that Quinn and Trayvon are doing over there. When you start sharing your ideas, your thinking becomes better, and that's exactly what happened. I've got to move on. I know. Save that good thinking. Okay. What time do we have till Miss Tim?
You have about 10 more
All
minutes.
right. I'm going to go ahead and read on. Continue that great thinking. We're going to continue listening to what the character says. Darren, you can move ahead of it, so I don't want you to feel like you left out. Keep it up, because you're going to discover some more things about the characters and the setting and the plot, okay, or the events. Here we go. This is where John Smith is marched off. He's already kind of looked over Samuel and says, he's going to make a good worker, and then he leaves. Reverend Hunt turns to me and Richard. There are men here whom you must show extra respect to. You understand? Richard and I both nod. I have never seen so many finely dressed gentlemen in one place. Over there, Reverend Hunt points discreetly with his chin. He didn't point with his finger, he pointed with his chin. Sir Edward Maria Wingfield, a very high-ranking gentleman and a member of the Virginia Company. Remember who he is. I take a good look at Edward Maria Wingfield. He's got a puffed out chest and a strut like a peacock. Wingfield, I say to myself, imagining him with bright tail feathers and wings. I won't forget. And there, Reverend Hunt says, Captain Bartholomew Gosnold, captain of the Godspeed. I already have birds on my mind, so I think of a gosling with light-colored down. A gosling is a baby goose, and down are the feathers, with light-colored down to match Captain Gosnold's fair hair. And him, Reverend Hunt says, that's Captain John Ratcliffe, captain of the Discovery, the smallest ship. Captain Ratcliffe has close-set beady eyes and a long, pointy nose. Ratcliffe, I whisper, and have to bite my lip to keep from snickering. And over there is Captain Christopher Newport. He's captain of the Susan Constant and leader of the whole expedition. Do not forget who he is. I see Captain Smith talking to a tall, dark-haired man in a red doublet. The man's right sleeve is pinned up and empty. I remember the boys at the orphanage talking about Captain Newport, how he was in a battle at sea with the Spanish and got his arm shot off. I would think that the loss of an arm would diminish a man, would make him feel like he wasn't very important. But I see that it has not diminished Captain Newport one bit. He nods to Captain Smith and looks over the scene around him with an air of confidence and authority as if it were his kingdom. In fact, these 3 ships and all the men on board are his kingdom until he drops us colonists safely in the New World. Now wait here, Reverend Hunt tells us. I'm going to find out which ship we'll be on. Richard and I stand there, but we don't talk. Richard is younger than I am by a year and a bit shorter and broader with dark, serious eyes. We haven't said a word to each other since I knocked his tooth out. That suits me just fine. I don't need a friend. I haven't needed anyone since my mom died. Reverend Hunt returns and tells us we'll all be passengers on the flagship, the Susan Constant. A breeze picks up. It will be a good day for sailing. Get your men on board, Captain Newport orders. I feel a leap of excitement inside me. Doomed or not, the adventure is about to begin. Turn to your part and tell them which they will.
See the way he imagined it. Like him to look like a rat and the peacock and the baby goose.
What do you
Because he has to respect everybody. I'm going to go and go to the ship.
Better than he is like you. Like he might not be a bad person like his dad, or he might not even be drunk. Like both of them, he doesn't even like the world. Like because he's trying to be the same. He tries to win and they can make I think it's gonna be a good one like we don't because they have to fight and help in that world. I think they might end up with some enemies and they might help him like if the ship I think he don't like the whole world because I think Samuel Richard his mom died is alone in the world and he's telling the captain is ready for the adventure.
There was a lot of information in that little bit of text that we just read. What did you and your partner talk about that you were thinking, that you noticed? Taylor.
I thought that we thought that he might have been going on one of those ships.
Do you remember which one he said? It said that he went on? Yeah, it was the Susan, I think. Yeah, so you were right. He went on one of those ships. Good thinking. Alan?
He said that it's a good time to sail. I think he's happy to go. He's gonna go to the river.
Yeah, did y'all notice that it's talking about the breeze picking up?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
I think he gonna like the new world because he's telling everyone I'm ready for the adventure, and at least he don't have to be lonely by himself. He has someone to be with.
Didn't think about that. Because when he was, before he was by himself and now he's got company. I didn't even think about that. Leja.
I think that when they get on the ship that maybe him and Richard will become friends and like if they have a break or something they'll find a place to meet and try to make a plan to run away when they get to their destination.
How much time do we have here?
About 5 minutes.
Okay. I'd like to continue reading. Keep those thoughts. Keep those thoughts. Keep those thoughts because we're going to add them to what we're fixing to read right now. Okay? We just finished, but the adventure is about to begin. Ready? I rub my eyes and blink in the dim light of the 'tween deck. The ship pitches and rolls. I only know it's morning because of the bit of light that peeks in around the gun ports and the closed hatch, and because the roosters and hens down in the hold know and they have started a racket. The 'tween deck reminds me of the root cellar at the orphanage with its close walls and ceiling. It is one long room running almost the length of the ship, though one can hardly walk for the barrels and crates that are taking up most of the room. At first, a few of the gentlemen hung pieces of cloth to make partitions, since they thought they deserved some privacy, that's like doorways. But those have all come down now in favor of setting up crates or card tables and barrels as sitting stools for their card games. The chickens are luckier than we are. Most days their crates are brought up on deck and they get fresh air to breathe. And the ship's cats and 2 dogs have the run of the place. So do the ship's 1,000 rats. We passengers are only allowed up to empty slop buckets or get the stew pots for our meals. Captain Newport says he doesn't want us getting in the sailor's way up on deck. We are all seasick and bored. We are going absolutely no place, and we have had nothing but storms and winds blowing the wrong direction for weeks now. And so we sit anchored in the cold, close enough to see England's shores, but still trapped down in this hole of a 'tween deck with the stench of urine and vomit and chicken dung. The gentlemen complain constantly. They want to sail back to shore and go home. Sir Edward Maria Winfield is the most vocal in his complaints. He is furious at Captain Smith, who keeps reminding the gentlemen that we have signed 7-year contracts with the Virginia Company and they can't quit this voyage. I can see why Master Wingfield wants to quit. Even living on the streets was better than this. Next to me, sleeping in our bed, a straw and canvas mattress thrown over some barrels, are Richard and snot-nosed 9-year-old James. James is servant to the gentleman Percy and afraid of everything. The men sleep 2 in a bed, but all 3 of us boys are crowded in together. There is a 4th boy, Nathaniel. He is older than I am, probably 13 or 14. It's a good thing he's on one of the other ships, or they'd have us sleeping 4 to a bed. What do you think?
They're gonna get sick probably, and when they come there, they're gonna find a passage to get out the ship. I think they're sick. Maybe they'll find a way to probably the 9-year-old James is gonna help him too. And then they're gonna try to lead it away from wherever it's supposed to be. They come here and treat it like slaves because they don't have nothing to do. And they don't play. The sailor is kind of like the person that gets all everything.
We had to cut that one a little short because we're short on time. Oh, I see hands raised. This is awesome. And I've got a couple of you I'm going to call on because I haven't heard from you yet, and I want to hear your thinking. Donna, I want to hear your thinking. What did you and Taylor talk about?
We talked about them because they might treat the boy wrong, or maybe the people like other people might be treated wrong
By who?
by the man,
Talking about John Smith? Is that who you're talking about? Or Reverend Hunt?
Reverend Hunt.
Okay. All right. So you're thinking they're not going to like it? Okay. What do you think, Alexander?
I think they're gonna be mad at John Smith for being out there for more than for like almost a year, cause they might die of hunger, and some might not survive.
What makes you think that they might not survive?
Cause the voyage is taking a long time.
How long?
And just eating food.
Yeah, they may run out of food, huh? I didn't think about that. That would be terrible. Darian, I haven't heard from you in a while. What were you guys talking about?
Me and Anna was talking about how Riverhunt and John Smith might hurt Richard and Samuel.
And what?
Because Samuel might run away because he didn't want to work no more.
Okay, so you're thinking he might run off and they might hurt him for that? Good. Yes, sir.
I think if they're on a ship, I think it might start raining and a huge waves might come and some boats might flip over and the boat that Richard and Samuel on, I think it might flip over, but it's gonna vanish. The ship is going to vanish and the boys are going to get scared.
Was there something in the text that made you think that there were storms? Is there something that the text said that made you think there were storms? What made you think about the storms?
And it said some waves are coming.
We talked about the waves, didn't it? Yeah. Did any of your groups talk about the setting? Did any of you notice something about the setting? About where it took place? Taylor, what did y'all know? What did y'all talk about?
We talked about that it took place on a ship that was dirty and it had a lot of rats.
Ooh. Remember how many rats it said?
1,000.
Ooh, can you imagine that?
Thousands.
Yeah. What were you girls talking about? Wait, let me ask her. What were you girls talking about?
The snake?
She had said that the slaves they were not real and they seemed to have inside.
Okay. Were you thinking? Did you want to share something that you were thinking, or you want to call on somebody to share? Okay, call on somebody to share. I'll give you a pass on this one. Quickly, try to stop calling her name. Quickly. Okay, I'm gonna call on somebody for you. Yes, ma'am. Amber.
The thing we were talking about was that how all the bombing, all that smell they were smelling, they were probably all squished up also in the bed. Cause if I was in there, I would go uncomfortable. Cause I don't like sleeping with other people.
And it talked about how they were sleeping with other people. Okay, and then we're gonna have to stop. Oh, I just love y'all thinking. I hate to stop it right now. Okay, let me ask you this. Did you learn about the setting and the characters
Teachers, pardon this interruption.
from the text?
I just wanted to let you know that
ma'am.
at
Show me.
2:50, we are having a fire drill, and from my understanding, there may be some mix-up about what this fire drill is about, but this is a true fire drill. I was just
And
informed that there were other plans at that time
look at me.
yesterday, so today we're doing a real fire drill. I want to thank all the students that sang happy birthday to me and sent me cards and all, but today we do need to practice our fire drill, and so at 2:50 we will ring the bell for that. Kindergarten to first teachers, there has been some additional workshops open if you were unable to get into the one on November the 4th. Thanks.
For those of you that said maybe, what do you think you could do to make it better? Taylor?
By telling more about how the ship looks and where are they sleeping.
Okay, and how would you be able to tell more about that? What would you do so that you could tell more about it?
Tell details about it
Okay, and how would you get those details?
from where you read.
From where you're reading or where I'm reading? That's right. You're kind of talking about what we talked about before, about listening and putting those details in your head. So I agree with that. Yes.
I think that the people that didn't understand should like try to pay attention more and like try to like think what's gonna like what's happening in the story, like try to like remember and like think about it in your mind, and maybe that will help them, because it's like if I give someone a book with no pictures, they're gonna tell me about it, but they're not gonna tell me everything. And if I give someone a book with pictures, they're probably gonna tell me more, but this book don't have no pictures, so it would be best for them to like think about the pictures like in the map and imagine it.
That's right.
And they should also like say more stuff to their partners and like try to listen better and like do better stuff.
So I'm hearing you say that you kind of make a picture, like a movie in your head almost?
Yeah.
And then listening to the text and listening to each other. One other thing I want us to work on, if we get to do this again, is the giving. Y'all are doing great in your partnerships, giving and getting. I want us to look in the whole group, because some of you really got a lot to say and said a lot. Others didn't get to say as much. So we want to make sure that we're giving as much as we're getting in group too. So that may be our next talking goal. Y'all are doing great in your partnerships. We may start trying to do that in group too. Does that sound like a good goal?
Yeah.
So we want to get everybody's thinking. You don't agree, Darian? A little bit? Okay. We'll talk about it more later, because I know y'all have to stop. Thank you so much. Again, it was wonderful thinking. Boy, Ms. King, you got some great thinkers in here.
Thank you.
Thank you.